Erev Tov, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our Tzurba Mirabanan class. This is where we come together and we learn Halacha in depth. We've been discussing some very, very intriguing topics of late, but being that we are just a few days out from the holiday of Purim, it turns out that Volume 1 from Tzurba Mirabanan that we are studying with has a section of the holiday of Purim in the back. So that's why we are going to focus a little bit on that today. We're not going to complete the entire shiur. However, we're going to take some pieces of it and hopefully, impart some knowledge to those that are following, to those that are listening. Ruchim habaim. We're not live today like we normally are in the Bet Knesset, but we are online. This is Bezrat Hashem will be the medium where you can just get a glimpse of some of the in-depth and sources of many of the things that we do, starting from this coming Monday, which is Ta'anit Esther. Of course, the 13th of Adar is known as Ta'anit Esther. It's a fasting on the Jewish calendar. However, the Ta'anit Esther isn't really sourced as Ta'anit Esther. It's not called Ta'anit Esther in the Gemara, but rather it's called a time for gathering, a Yom HaKnisa. That's what it's referred to, Yom HaKnisa. So, or Zman Kehila as well, Zman Kehila Lakolhi. So, therefore, that's where we're going to begin. We're going to begin with source number 1 from the Rosh, where he explains Rabbeinu Tam, which is Tosafot Perush Rabbeinu Tam. What does it mean, Zman Kehila, a time for gathering? Sha'akol mitasfin leTa'anit Esther. That's what the Gemara meant, that everybody comes together to fast for Ta'anit Esther. Ubayim b'nei akvarim la'ayarot lomar slichot v'tahanunim. Men of the villages would come, the townspeople would come to the city to say slichot and tahanunim, supplications, because it was on that day during the year of Purim, the story of Purim, where their lives were at risk and they needed mercy. Rabbeinu Tam derives support from this. לתענית אסתר שאנו עושים כמו שעשו בימי מרדכי ואסתר כשנקהלו היהודים לעמוד על נפשם, which is similar that they did in the times of Mordechai and Esther when the Jews gathered to defend their lives. ולא מצינו לו סמך בשום מקום אלא בכאן. We don't find any other source of Ta'anit Esther rather than this Gemara. Now, Shulchan Aruch and the Rama both codify this in Halacha. Says Shulchan Aruch in source number 2, Mit'anim b'Yud Gimel b'Adar. We fast on the 13th of Adar. Now, what happens? Ve'im chal Purim be'echad b'Shabbat. If Purim falls out on Sunday, so you can't fast on the 13th of Adar because that would be Shabbat. So therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch, Makdimim li'tanot b'Yom Hamishi. The fast then is preceded by on Thursday. That's when we fast on Thursday before the Sunday of Purim. Says the Rama, V'tanit ze enochova. Rama here is adding that this ta'anit, this fast, is not an obligation. Lachen yesh la'akel bolet hatzorech. That's why we can be lenient in times of need. Kegon, for example, me'ubarot, pregnant women, or menikot, nursing women, or la'choleshen bosakana, even someone who is sick and is not in danger of his life. Even if a person is suffering, his eyes hurt. His eyes hurt. That if he's suffering a lot, he should not fast. However, he does say he should make it up later instead. Meaning you're not just exact. Yeah, you gotta make it up another time because you had a headache or your eyes hurt. Nevertheless, as Rama, if you are healthy, you should not separate yourself from the community. You should come together just like everybody else is fasting. You should also fast. So the Shulchan Aruch himself does not bring any of these leniencies. It is the Rama, but it is accepted by many that even if a person has a headache or a minor ache, he would be permitted to eat, even though they are not actually dangerously ill. What does the Mishnah Berurah say over here? What's the reason for this fast? Because it was on the 13th of Adar, where in the days of Mordechai and Esther, where the Jewish people had to fight for their lives. that the Jewish people had to pray and ask Hashem to help them avenge their enemies. V'nikra Ta'anit Esther, and the reason why it's called Ta'anit Esther, kedei lizkor she'Hashem yitbarach רואה ושומע כל איש בצרתו, כאשר יתענה וישוב להשם בכל לבבו, כמו שעשה עמהם. In order to recall that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees and hears every person in his time of strife, just like he did with Esther while she was crying out to God so many thousands of years ago, and therefore a person can return to Hashem with all of his heart as he did in those days. Okay, so that's the custom, or not a custom, that's what we do on the 13th of Adar, unless of course it falls out, Purim falls out on Sunday, in which case we will fast on the Thursday before. Okay, yafeh me'od. Let's move on to the next element in our shiur, which is the custom of Zecher LeMahatzit HaShekel. So Zecher LeMahatzit HaShekel, you probably have received numerous emails, probably from your rabbi, and asking to contribute to this minhag. This is an ancient custom that is brought down by the Ramah to give charity before Purim starts. Zecher LeMahatzit HaShekel, it's in remembrance of the actual half coin donation that was given annually during the days of the Bet HaMikdash. The public announcement would start from Rosh Chodesh Adar, but the actual giving of it would not take place till Nisan. Nowadays, we don't give it to the Bet HaMikdash because we don't have a Bet HaMikdash. Instead, it is given to the poor. Okay, so says the Ramah. Let's just find the source. The Ramah writes in Tafrei Sadi Daled, Yesh Shomrim sheyesh liten kodem Purim machatzit min hamatbeya hakavua beoto makom v'to zman. That one person should give a half coin from the commonly used currency in that locale. Zecher LeMahatzit HaShekel shayu notim b'Adar. This was in remembrance of the Mahatzit HaShekel that was given in the month of Adar. U'me'achar sheshlosha pa'amim katuv teruma b'parasha, since the word teruma is written 3 times in the parasha, Parashat Teruma, yesh yiten gimel. We should give 3 of these half coins. Some give it on the night of Purim before they say mincha. And that is the custom in all these lands. Rama says the custom is only to give anyone that was above the age of 20, because that was the requirement in the time of the Bet HaMikdash. Only for those that were miben esrim v'mala, if you were over the age of 20, you had to give Mahatzit HaShekel. So therefore, when we're doing Zecher LeMahatzit HaShekel, you have to be over the age of 20. However, comes a Mishnah Berurah, and he says, well, the custom is actually not like that. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Zeu ledat Rabbeinu Ovadia mibar Tenura. What Ramah is quoting is the opinion of Ovadia mibar Tenura. Aval HaTosfot Yom Tov katav poskim cholkim, that there are arguments among the poskim. Even from 13 years old and higher, Shuhu bichlal ish, where now a person is in the category of an adult, he would have to give Mahatzit HaShekel. V'amar Rabbi Eliyahu Rabbah katav dechol zerak midina. This is only according to the law. Aval haminhag hu liten afilu be'ad banav haktanim, but the person should even give for his little children. V'isha me'oberet, even if a woman is pregnant, be'ad vlada has to give for her fetus. And then once a father starts giving on behalf of a minor, he should not stop afterward. And that is generally the custom that what most people do, is that they give for all members of their family. Now, there are different customs with regards to the amount given for Zecher LeMahatzit HaShekel. Some only give 1/2 of the basic coin or currency of that locale, so it would be a half shekel or half a dollar, and therefore, if you're taking 3 coins, so it would be $3 half dollars or $1.50, for example, here in Canada. However, we Sfaradim give the half shekel of biblical times, which is equivalent to roughly around 9 grams of silver. We are recording this shiur in 5786, 2026, and the value of silver has skyrocketed this year, and that is approximately $30, 30 Canadian dollars per family member, which can be quite a bit of money, quite a big sum. So now, if it is difficult, now it's important to mention that this sum cannot be taken from your maaser ksafim, from the tzedakah that you normally are obligated to give, your 10% of your income that you're obligated to give to tzedakah. But I can understand that for $30 for a lot of people is very difficult, especially if you have a very large family. So what I would say is as follows: that for those that are 20 and older in your family, certainly you cannot give from tzedakah, from maaser ksafim, but really you should be extending that to, like we said, to anyone that is over 13 or 12. 13 or 12, anyone older than that age, you should not be given from your maaser ksafim. However, if it's below 13, 12, although you should still be giving Zecher LeMahatzit HaShekel, nevertheless, that can come from your tzedakah, your maaser kesafim, that can come from your tzedakah account, given because when the time of the Bet HaMikdash, they were not obligated to give. And that is not the deen specifically. So if it's a little bit easier in that way, then a person can act accordingly. Okay, yafeh. Moving on to the next subject of today's shiur, which is what we're going to discuss now, the halacha of the Megillah reading. We begin source number 6, the Gemara in Masechet Megillah. Amar Rabbi Chelbo Amar Ula Bira'am. Rabbi Chelbo said the name of Ula Bira'am. Hayav Adam likrot et Megillah balayla velishnota bayom. A person is obligated to read the Megillah at night and then repeat it during the day. Shnei Emar, the pasuk says, Leman yezamercha chavod velo yidom. Adonai Elohai leolam odeka. So that my glory may sing praise to you and not be silent. Hashem, my God, I will give thanks to you forever. So, Leman Yizamecha Chavod is my praise to you is referring to the Megillah once. Velo Yidom is a second time according to Rashi. Shulchan Aruch codifies this in Halacha Taf Reish Pei Zayin. Hayav Adam Likrot HaMegillah Balayla ve'lachzor ve'lishnota bayom. That one is obligated to read the Megillah at night and repeat it during the day. The time for night is the entire night. So if you want to read it 2 in the morning, kol hakavod to you. And the time for the day is mana kol hayom. You have all day to do it. You have from sunrise until sunset. And if a person had to read it a little bit earlier, meaning from dawn, he has still fulfilled his obligation, as is with many of the mitzvot of the morning, such as reciting the Amidam and reciting Kiryat Shema. As long as you did it after dawn, it is fine. So, what about the brachot? What brachot do we say? Says the Gemara, what bracha do we say prior to the Megillah? He once happened to come to Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi blessed 3 blessings, which are alluded to by the letters Mem Nun Het, otherwise known as Manach. What's Manach? So says Rashi on the spot. Mem is Al Mikra Megillah, the reading of the Megillah. Then the Nun is She'asa Nisim La'avotenu, and the Het is Shehecheyanu. Shehayanu is one who has sustained us and kept us alive during this year. Now, there is a mahloket between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim on the bracha of Shehayanu, whether or not that bracha is recited during the day, the second reading. So let's look at the Shulchan Aruch and the Rama in source number 10. It says Shulchan Aruch, Hakoret Megillah mevarech lefanea gimel brachot. Person reads a Megillah, he has to recite before it 3 blessings. Al mikra Megillah, Sha'asa Nisim, v'Shehayanu. Ubayom eno chozer u'varech Shehayanu. In the daytime, we do not recite the Shehayanu blessing. You've already done it once. So therefore, you're not going to say Shehayanu again during the day. Comes the Rama, says, V'yesh omrim, and there are those who say, De'af bayom mevarech Shehayanu. Even during the day, we say Shehayanu v'chenu agdin bechol medinot elu, and that is the custom of all these lands. Why does the Rama say that you still have to say Shehayanu during the day? We don't like, for example, during Kiddush. For example, you say Kiddush on a holiday, you say Shehayanu. The next day, you don't say Kiddush during daytime. So why are we adding? Why are we repeating Shehayanu during the day? So says Magen Abraham, De'ikar mitzvat keriyata bayom, because the primary mitzvah of reading is during the day. That's the main time. The main reading is the day. So therefore, Ashkenazim are following the Rama are going to say Shechianu twice, once at night, once during the day, and the Shulchan Aruch says it's only once at night, and that's how the Sephardim follow. Says the Mishnah Berurah, he adds an interesting point over here, and he says that v'nachon lechaven bebikat Shechianu gam al mishloach manot u'seudat Purim. When a person is hearing the bracha of Shechianu, and certainly the one reading, should have in mind also the mitzvot of Mishloach Manot and Seudat Purim, where there are no blessings recited of Shechianu on that. Gam ken mitzvah sheyodia l'zeh la'ashat mevarech debai kavanat shomer mashmiya. It should be told to the shaliach tzibur, whoever is reading the Megillah, to have that in mind. Okay, very good. Now those are the brachot before. What about the bracha afterwards? Okay, which is known as the bracha of Harav et Rivenu. So the Gemara tells us la'acharei may mevarech, what blessing is recited afterwards, and the Gemara goes on to basically state the whole bracha Harav et Rivenu Adan et Dinenu Nokem et Dikmatenu. Okay, and there Rava would add Ha'ela Mosia. The bracha is to say all of it. Very good. It's a very long bracha. We're not going to recite it all here now. Says the Shulchan Aruch in Tafrei Tzadibet Siman Aleph, Ulacharei noagin levarech Harav et Rivenu. The custom is to say the bracha of Harav et Rivenu following the Megillah. Im lo birech, lo lefanea, velo le'acharei yatsa. If a person recites the Megillah without saying the brachot before or after, he still fulfills the mitzvah. From here we learn a very fundamental rule, she'abrachot enan me'akevot. The bracha is not me'akev the mitzvah. Meaning, if I don't say a bracha to blow the shofar, and I still blow the shofar, I fulfill the mitzvah. The bracha is not me'akev the mitzvah. It doesn't hold back the mitzvah. Same thing with the Megillah. If I don't say Shulchan Aruch, if I don't say bracha before or after, the reading still counts. Says the Rama on this halacha, ve'en levarech acharei ela betzibur. One should only say the bracha afterwards in public, in a minyan. So you have to have a minyan in order to say this final bracha. The Aruch HaShulchan in source number 15 comes to explain the logic of the Rama, but he also argues with the Rama and says that is not the custom, that we would still say the bracha even when you have less than a tzibur. So he says, Katav Rabbeinu Rama di bracha shelacharei ena ela betzibur v'yesh lomar tam. One, the reason is the kevan de'ena shaycha lemegila ela hi brikat hoda'ah mishum pishmei nisa. The reason why that the bracha is not connected to the Megillah itself. The whole blessing of Harav et Rivenu is for the purpose of thanksgiving and publicizing the miracle. Lo nitkana ela betzibur, and therefore was not established unless you are with a group of people to publicize it. Sheyesh pirsum v'lo be'achid. You wouldn't find that publication, publicization, if it's not in a tzibur, if you're only with one person. Veda, however, you should know. שהביאו זה בשם ירושלמי, ואני לא מצאתי זה בירושלמי. I didn't find really a source of this. בשם אחד מהראשונים לא הזכירו זה, ובשבילי הלקט מביא מנהג שתי ישיבות לברך אחריה גם ביחיד, וכדומה שכן מנהג העולם. He says, I found elsewhere in the yeshivot in Babel that this bracha would be recited even when there was not a minyan, and that is the accepted custom. However, the Biur Halacha and the Yakut Yosef say that really it should not be recited without less than 10 people. Okay, Yafeh Meod. There's an interesting note over here that says Poskim discuss whether the bracha should be recited for a group of 10 women listening to the Megillah, which is often the case at a second Megillah reading after the main one. As the Rama notes that it is possible that women might count for a minyan with regard to Megillah reading, as we're going to see soon. Although there are different practices, it seems that the more widely accepted ruling is for the bracha to be recited. See Mikra Kodesh and Yabia Omer. Okay, very good. Speaking of women, this is always a confusing topic because, as we're going to see, a lot of different sources with regards to women reciting the Megillah. So we're going to look at what our Chachamim have to say about women regarding the Megillah. We begin with the Gemara in source number 17. Nashim hayavot b'mikra Megillah. Women are obligated in the reading of the Megillah. She'af hem hayu be'oto anes. They were also part of the miracle. there's two explanations to this statement. It's very famous Tosafot, who says that either A, you can explain that the women were part of the decree to be killed, and therefore, since they were saved, they're obligated to read it. Or you could say that the miracle was actualized through a woman, that woman being Esther HaMalka, obviously in the story of Purim, and that's why women are obligated in the mitzvah. This same idea happens takes place in the halachot of Pesach and the halachot of Hanukkah. Same idea, even though these are usually time-bound mitzvah that a woman would be exempt for, being that they were part of the miracle, therefore they have to do all the mitzvot of Pesach and as well be there present, lighting the Hanukkah candles. Now, says the Tur in source number 18, Hakol chavim kriyat Megillah, v'nashim nami chayavot b'kriyata. Women also have to. Upirush Rashi says, Shemotziot la'anashim midei chovadan. Rashi says that they can fulfill the obligation on behalf of men. Wow, they can even fulfill the obligation on behalf of men. ובעל הלכות גדולות כתב, אף על גב שחייבות במקרא מגילה, אינן מוציאות לאנשים. All right? Even though they are obligated, they cannot fulfill the obligation on behalf of men. So we see a machloket already in the Rishonim. Rashi says that a woman can read for a man, and the Baal Mikra Halachot Gedolot says no. Okay, so which one do we follow? Let's look at the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch Siman Tafresh Peitet Halacha Bet Echad HaKoreh ve'Echad HaShomea Min HaKoreh. Both a person who is reading from the Megillah and one who is hearing the Megillah, Yatzai Dechovato, he fulfills his obligation. Vehu sheishma mimi shu chayav b'kriyata. This is on condition that you're listening from someone who is obligated to if someone was heard the Megillah, or if the reader was deaf mute, or he was a minor, or he was deranged, and these people are patur from the reading. Hashomea mimenu lo yatsa. Someone who listens to Megillah from a child who's not chayav in the reading, for example, does not fulfill the mitzvah himself. Some say she'anashim enam motziot et anashim. Some say that women cannot perform the obligation on behalf of men. So notice that Shulchan Aruch does not list women in the first category of people that are not obligated to, but he does bring it as a yesh omrim that some say that women cannot do it for men. Why can't they? What would be the potential problems according to this yesh omrim of the Shulchan Aruch? There we have to look at the Mishnah Berurah, source number 20. He says, "Velo dami lener Chanukah." It's different from Chanukah. Chanukah, for example, a woman, no problem, can take a candle, light for her whole family, even if her husband is there. The Shani Megillah, why is Megillah different? Torah. Because reading the Megillah is similar to Torah reading. And a woman is disqualified to read from the Torah because it's not considered dignified for the community. And therefore, she can't even read for one person, even though it was not in a tzibur, even for one person, because of the rule of lo plug, which is that the Chachamim did not differentiate when making certain degrees. They wanted to have a standardized halacha. Begam, we could also say, second reason, maybe a woman is not obligated to read the Megillah. She can only hear the Megillah. As we'll explain later, and therefore, if she's not obligated to read it, she cannot read for men. Because like we said, men can, a person who's to fulfill the mitzvah has to listen to it from someone who's obligated to read it. However, it says the Mishnah Berurah, "Aval isha motziat chaverta." A woman may exempt another woman from reading. Good. So says the Rama on this. Rama speaks about this. He says, she says, if a woman was to read the Megillah for herself, she would recite mevarechet lishmoa Megillah. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu mitzvah v'tzivanu lishmoa Megillah, not al mikra Megillah, but rather to hear the Megillah she'ena chayevet b'kriyah, because she is not obligated to read it. The understanding of the Rama, the note here says, is also explicit in the Magen Avraham, who says that we're basically the Rama is holding like the Rishon, who says that a woman cannot fulfill a man's obligation, and that's why generally to the Ashkenazim, women do not read for men, and that is how Rav Eliezer Melamed in Pnei Halacha is posek in source number 22. Since this halacha is subject to a machloket, a dispute, shekula ben harishonim, horu rov hacharonim, therefore the hacharonim have ruled sheisha lo totzi ish yedei kiryat Megillah. A woman cannot read the Megillah for a man. Only in extenuating circumstances, where a man, for example, doesn't know how to read Hebrew, or he has no way of hearing the Megillah from someone else. In that situation, then a woman can read for him. So at least he fulfills the mitzvah according to those opinions that says that a woman can fulfill the obligation of a man. Now, interesting to note, as brought down here, that the Chida holds that according to the first opinion, that a woman can read the Megillah on behalf of a man, and it would be accepted to. And Yakut Yosef also holds this as well in his Sefer, but he says it should not be relied upon in practice. Let's look at the Yakut Yosef. Some say that even though women are obligated in the mitzvah of Megillah, they do not perform the mitzvah on behalf of men. And some argue, some say the opposite, that they could perform the mitzvah on behalf of men. Says Yakut Yosef, even though the main halacha is like the latter opinion, that a woman could fulfill the mitzvah on behalf of men, it is better to take into consideration the first opinion, unless, of course, you have no other choice. Nevertheless, don't think that this would not be allowed because a woman is singing, and we know that the kol of isha, a woman's voice, is considered licentious and an erva. That is not the reason why the Chachamim said that they can't do it. It's only because of the two reasons brought down in the Mishnah Berurah that we explained before. It's not either kavod latzibur, because it's compared to reading from the Torah, or because maybe women are not obligated to actually read it, just listen to it. Okay, interesting note here, number 11. One reason for this is that there is no concern when using cantillation for reading the Torah or the Megillah, since it is for the purpose of mitzvah. Alternatively, some suggest that the cases of women reading the Megillah are when no cantillation is used, or when dealing with family members such as a sister, mother, or daughter, where there is no prohibition. Okay, interesting. Now, in the Shut Chelkat Yaakov, he discusses whether a woman should attend a minyan to listen to the Megillah, or maybe she should wait for someone to come read for her at home. So he says, there's no preference for a woman to go to the Bet Midrash to hear the Megillah. And that seems to be the words from the Mishnah Berurah, where he writes, in some places, the custom was women to go to shul to hear the Megillah. He goes, this needs further study. How can they fulfill their obligation where it's impossible to hear the Megillah properly? So what the Chelkat Yaakov is saying is that, wait a second, women need to hear every word. Often the Ezrat Nashim is far away from the reader. They're not going to be able to hear every word. Maybe the Chazan doesn't have a strong enough voice. He suggests that maybe the women should stay at home. However, says the Chayei Adam, no, not the case. He says, mitzvah min hamuvchar lelech lebet haKnesset hu veishto banav lishma Megillah berov ha'am. He says it is a mitzvah for everybody in the family to go to Bet Knesset to hear the Megillah in public. The more people hearing the Megillah in one place, the better. Now, Rav Eliezer Melamed in Pnei Halacha also discuss Halacha where women do not attend reading in the Bet Knesset, and now a woman wants to read for another group of women. So that's what he says. Isha yechola leotzi nashim acherot yedei chobatan. A woman is allowed to fulfill the obligation of another woman. But some say sheisha ena yechola leotzi nashim rabot. That a woman cannot fulfill an obligation of a group of women. Like we said, it is equivalent to reading the Torah. Just like a woman cannot read from the Torah, so too she cannot read for other women the Megillah. And some say some say that when a woman is reading for other women, no beracha should be recited. And he puts here, he's quoting the Ben Ish Chai and the Kaf HaChaim. Ulam, however, ha'ikar kedat rov rubam shel poskim. The opinion, the primary opinion is according to what most poskim write. The woman may fulfill the obligation of other women to read the Megillah, and she should recite the beracha in the same way that a man recites the Megillah. However, it is preferable. He does write, it is best for a woman to hear the Megillah from a man, because this way the woman is fulfilling her obligation according to all the opinions. And the best practice is anyone who's able to go to the synagogue with the men, because with a larger group, the miracle is publicized more, and that's how the Shulchan Aruch is posek. It is a very good custom to bring young boys and girls to hear the Megillah, and that's what many of us do. Now, when we do that, however, sometimes that often leads to a lot of noise in the synagogue, which could make it very difficult for the people that are trying to listen to every word to actually focus on every word. And that's why the Mishnah Berurah uses very strong language regarding some of the noise going on in Bet Knesset during the reading of the Megillah. Let's look at what he says. Achshav, ba'avonotenu harabim na'afochu. Now, because of our many sins, the opposite has happened. Meaning, we've tried. Originally, the intent of the Shulchan Aruch was to bring men, women, and children to the Bet Knesset so that they could hear and fulfill the Megillah. The Mishnah Berurah is saying the exact opposite is happening. Not only are not listening, they are also interrupting. Even the adults cannot listen to the Megillah. The only reason why they're coming is so that they make noise for the pronouncing of Haman's name. He said, you are not fulfilling no mitzvah of chinuch, of educating your children through this at all. What are you teaching your kid? Instead, you should be bringing your kid to Bet Knesset so that you train them to follow the Megillah and read the Megillah and fulfill. But if you're only bringing them so that they could make noise for Haman, then what's the point? You want good chinuch? You bring your kid to Bet Knesset and you make him sit next to you so you can listen to the word as best as he can. And when the Baal Koreh says the name of Haman, then you can allow him to use a gragger or make noise, whatever it is that everyone uses nowadays. But that should not be the primary reason for bringing your children to Bet Knesset so that they can make noise during Haman. That is not something that we recommend, and something that we have to work on. Of course, we want to encourage and promote our children and our spouses, of course, to come to Bet Knesset, but we don't want the children jeopardizing the mitzvah that the men and women have to listen to every single word. And therefore, it's important that every father and mother, when they bring their children to Bet Knesset this coming Purim, they bring their children and sit them next to them, have them follow as best as they can, and there'll be plenty of opportunities when Haman's name is mentioned to actually fulfill that custom of making noise. B'ezras Hashem, we will be zoche that Amalek and Haman's name will be erased. The Olam Va'ed, the Jewish people will see Yeshuot v'Nechamot. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. B'ezras Hashem, there are a few more mitzvot of Purim in this section. However, we'll probably save it for next year, either here or in Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh with the coming of Mashiach. Amen. Have a wonderful evening.